coaches, welcome to J&J Productions' first compliance education video. These videos are being created to keep you informed, entertained, and most importantly, compliant with the NCAA, MIAA, and university rules and policies. Within each video, there's at least one question that you will need to respond to as proof that you watched the video and can demonstrate your compliance. This month's topic is First Steps Towards a Championship Season in Compliance. We will cover the steps you need to take for total paperwork preparation and the certification of your student athletes for practice and competition.
Go.
First of all, let's talk about total paperwork preparation. The beginning of the season and the school year means forms. Lots and lots of forms. So where do you start? The declaration of playing season form is a good place to start. This is how you let everyone know when you are starting practices and when you have competition. The compliance coordinator will look at what you put for your first competition in order to have your student athletes certified for competition. So be sure that your scrimmages and exhibition games are included. Fall and spring sports will only need to fill out the fall portion and will complete the spring section at the end of the fall semester. That form leads us to the weekly countable hours form. This is the form you use to track the hours you require student athletes to engage in practice, competition, weights, conditioning, film, and any other required sports meetings and activities. You will start filling these out at the beginning of classes, and you're required to turn in these forms by the end of each month until the end of the academic year. For fall sport coaches, you will need to turn in your preseason practice schedules as a way of tracking your hours before the start of school. The out-of-town travel authorization form is required for each road trip for away games. It is used to estimate all expenses for your team travel and to have record of official travel on university activities for the protection of the university, your coaching staff, and the student athletes. You'll need to fill out a separate form for each trip, but you can turn in all forms at the same time prior to the start of your season. Jeanette can help you with previous year expenses if you are unsure what expenses and amounts to include for each trip. If you will incur travel expenses that will not be direct billed to the university, you can request a cash advance for each trip. Of course, to get a cash advance, you will need to complete a cash advance team travel form. Again, you'll need to fill out a separate form for each trip, but all requests can be turned in at one time prior to the start of your season. Marjorie in the business office will make sure there's a cash advance check ready for you to pick up before each trip. If you need help deciding how much of an advance you'll need, or you want to look at what you spent in previous years, you can consult with Jeanette. Remember, though, that you will have to turn in receipts and remaining cash from a previous trip before you can pick up the cash advance for the next one. Both the cash advance team travel form and the out-of-town travel authorization form will need to be turned in to Jeanette. So that leaves us with two final forms for your total paperwork preparation. The travel roster is what you use to list the travel party for each away contest. You will need to include all coaches and bench personnel, athletic trainers, doctors, equipment managers, etc., as well as student athletes who are traveling. This form should be completed and turned in prior to leaving on each trip. And the final form is the independent travel form. This is the form that you will have student athletes fill out if they do not travel with the team or university personnel. As a department rule, we only allow student athletes to travel on their own or with their immediate family, not with a family friend or a boyfriend-girlfriend. Coaches should keep copies of this form with them when traveling and turn them into the compliance coordinator after trips when student athletes traveled independently.
All right, coaches, I'm new around here, so I have a question for you. Do I have to fill out any travel forms if I don't have any out-of-pocket expenses?
Now that we have the forms taken care of, let's turn to your student athletes and making sure they are eligible for practice and competition. Student athletes may only engage in workouts with your team once they have been certified for practice. So before you conduct your first practice, or any conditioning, weight training, or individual skills workouts, you will need to confirm with the compliance coordinator those who have been certified as eligible for practice. Certification for practice requires 3 things: medical clearance, completed NCAA paperwork, and full-time enrollment at Washburn. For medical clearance, student athletes will need to have a physical on file, insurance information turned in, and the sickle cell form completed. All of the medical paperwork is available through the athletics website. You will want to work with our athletic trainers to coordinate times and dates for physicals for your new student athletes. The athletic trainers will collect all the necessary documentation and will relay information about which student athletes have medical clearance to the compliance coordinator. For NCAA paperwork, all student athletes will receive an email with a link to the NCAA forms that they must complete. They will receive the email the week before their team is scheduled to start practices. The email will be sent to their Washburn email, so it is important that you let your student athletes know that they will need to check their Washburn account for an email from nobody@ncaa.org. The compliance coordinator will be tracking student athletes' progress with these forms during the week before practice starts and will update coaches regularly. The third part of certifying student athletes for practice is the requirement that they be enrolled full-time. Actually, this is only partially true. Up through the end of the first week of classes, student athletes may practice as long as they are admitted to Washburn. But by the end of the first week of classes, they must be enrolled full-time to be eligible for practice. This allows latecomers and those student athletes who need to make changes in their schedule to get this done without compromising their eligibility for practice. Finally, before your student athletes can suit up for competition or get on the bus to travel to the game, they will need to be certified as eligible for competition. Again, before you finalize your starting lineup, you will need to confirm with the compliance coordinator who has been cleared for competition, as this is a more involved process that involves getting the faculty athletics representative and the registrar to sign off on the eligibility of each student athlete. To be certified for competition, all student athletes have to be in good academic standing at Washburn, which requires a cumulative grade point average of 2.0 or better. They must also be enrolled full-time at Washburn, which is 12 credit hours. Returning student athletes must have made successful progress toward degree, which generally means having earned 24 credits over the past 2 terms or averaging 12 credits per full-time term attended at Washburn. There are a number of nuances and exceptions to satisfactory progress, so we won't go into those right now. For transfers to be certified as eligible for competition, they must meet the academic requirements for 2 or 4-year transfers, have received their amateurism certification from the NCAA Eligibility Center, and be complete in admissions at Washburn. This means that official transcripts from all institutions they have attended have been received by admissions and the application fee has been paid. Freshman student athletes have to receive final certification as a qualifier from the NCAA Eligibility Center, as well as their amateurism certification. They must also be complete in admissions at Washburn.
Good.
Hey coaches, I really need your help. I have a 7'1" kid that wants to come to Washburn. Can he take 9 hours from Washburn and 3 hours from a community college and be eligible to participate and play?